Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, dodging town halls. Also, there's a new twist on the AMCC case. And while the market is crashing all around us, Tommy Tuberville says it was just bloated. I'm not sure that everyone agrees with the senator's analysis. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, y'all.
You know, the legislature has been on break, and I've been so miserable since they left, it's almost like they're still here.
Really?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, they took their spring break
I've been
this
pretty happy
week.
because they've been gone.
Well, you know, I hate to shine Josh's apple because Charlie gets very upset every time we shine Josh's apple. But this past week, Josh got to interview Ken Martin, the newly appointed head of the DNC, in an exclusive for his podcast. So tell us a little bit about it, Josh.
Yeah, it was great. I've never heard the phrase "shine my apple." I didn't know what we were in for there, but no, it was great. Ken Martin was a really nice interview, and honestly, the nicest part about it he had some refreshing ideas about where they were going to take the party. You know, kind of recovering still from the loss in November and the spending of $2 billion on a failed presidential run. And, so I think that what they're going to do and the ideas that we heard were a lot of the ideas that people have been pushing for a long time, which is to start paying more attention to every state around the country and put up fights in places that are Republicans have proved mattered, like school boards and, local races around that have really affected this country and have really affected the outlook of regular folks about the issues that are taking place, around kitchen tables every night that are being discussed. And so I think those were very refreshing ideas. He talked about, no longer conceding anything to anyone. They're going to fight everywhere. They're going to fight all the time. They're going to fight, in battles, and they're going to pick and choose different ways. And, as I told David, who co-hosts the podcast with me, it's Alabama Politics This Week, it was also very refreshing to hear that they were going to put some money into new media, possibly local podcasts in states like Alabama. I mean, that would be fantastic if they started supporting some of those guys.
Susan, one of the things that you brought up and that these are the ideas that, of course, Josh, you, me, Susan, have been talking about for years. They needed to, you need to compete in every race to win any race.
So many elections we see with a Republican on the ballot and no challenger. Well, you can't win an election if you don't have somebody show up to challenge them. They're going to have to start pitting people in these smaller races in the states, even in the red states. And that's what he was emphasizing, that they're not going to concentrate just on blue states or purple states. They're going to concentrate also on red states. And I think that's a good strategy to start with.
I mean, I would love to have you talk with the RNC chair and see what they're thinking. But
I'm sure that conversation would go very well between me and the RNC chair.
I'd be happy to talk to him.
It would be great. Honestly, Susan's right. And it's not only just about winning the races that you're in these things, because a lot of them would be long shots, especially in this state when you put some folks on the ballot like that. But you got to see it as a build towards the future. You're creating candidates then that people know and that people get to be comfortable with, and they see out and they relate to, and they hear their ideas. And the more you spread your ideas through all of these far-flung places out there, the more they can take hold. Because the Democrats, if you look at it, if you look at all the polling, this is no bias, just look at the polling. The Democratic ideas that they have for running the country are far more popular than the ideas that Republicans have.
Well,
and that's just a fact.
And that's an interesting point you bring up, Susan. We talked about that, how the Republicans, even here in Alabama, have shifted positions. I mean, right now, there's a move to cut a bunch of taxes in Montgomery, which all started with decades of the Democrats demanding that they cut the grocery tax.
Right.
And then Anthony Daniels, the head of the minority caucus in the House, came up with that revolutionary idea of not taxing overtime, which current President Donald Trump has championed on a national level. So they were not winning that battle of ideas on taxes. So Republicans have moved more to their thinking.
Yeah, there's a bill, I think Danny Garrett has introduced a package of 4 tax relief bills. The first one, of course, being grocery tax, and then there's state income tax as well. So they're beginning to move toward this idea, this Democrat idea, which it should be a universal idea. I mean, why do we have to call things Democrat or Republican?
Right.
If it's a good idea, it's just a good idea. But yeah, they're moving toward, doing some more tax cuts, which I think is a good.
I mean, Josh, the idea of cutting taxes is, especially on groceries and workers' pay, has been championed by Daniels and several of these other guys. This package that Danny Garrett put out, while looks commendable, there are some flaws in it. Haven't you seen those?
Yeah, I have, and and I think that first of all, it leans a little too heavily to the the upper class of folks, right, and not enough to the working class of folks. And the Democrats have a 3-bill package of things that really address, I think, the needs of the state. One of them is continuing on with the overtime tax, which Republicans are currently thinking about repealing right now. And they want to make that permanent, even though it passed unanimously in both houses. And is very popular among people, and really drove an influx of workers and income pay up really highly. And so I think that you're right, those ideas. I mean, John Knight must be just infuriated every day when he hears Republicans talk about how they're going to cut the grocery tax. He's been talking about it for 30 years, and it's just, honestly, man, it's nice to see them kind of coming around and paying attention to the people who pay their salaries, through their hard work every day. And it would be nice if folks out there also realize that there's one group that's working for them all the time, and it's Democrats in this state.
Well, and I think you've got some Republicans who've been afraid to do anything that might be considered in the Democratic camp. But I tell you, if they repeal this overtime pay, the only thing that's going to save those candidates who repeal it is gerrymandering. It is not going to be the voters. It's going to be that they've already picked their own voters. But the voters of this state are going to be so mad because this overtime tax has been one of the most popular things that we've ever seen in Alabama. And like I said, President Trump, who has come out and said we should have a national ban on taxes on overtime pay, because that puts real money into the pockets of real working people. We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. A recent ruling by the Civil Court of Appeals here in Alabama in the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission case had the Cannabis Commission spinning like gerbils in a cage. I mean, they were just woo, 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 and they were trying every way they could to put a good face on getting it slapped. And I mean, the judge slapped them good fashion. But boy, they went to the meeting and said, oh, this is a big win for us. No, it wasn't. Josh, tell us how it was not a big win for AMCC.
I don't know if I can follow the gerbils on the wheel, but listen, it essentially gave the plaintiffs in that case, and the plaintiffs in the case were Alabama Always was the lead plaintiff there, and it was a company that had not received the license through several different iterations of the licensing process that AMCC has gone through. But what they basically said was, you didn't follow the laws had not been followed here, and that the AMCC is required to follow the Alabama Administrative Procedures Act. They're required to put together these hearings, these contested case hearings at the end of this case, which means all of the licensees have an opportunity to contest the decisions of the AMCC before the licenses are handed out. And because the AMCC, prior to this ruling, had come before the court and said, listen, we promise we're not going to give out any license. We're going to put a stay on issuing the licenses out that we've awarded. And we're going to hold these contested case hearings that align with the AAPA. That means that they're going to have all these cases and we're going to do these things. And then we're going to award the licenses. And so the court essentially said, well, then we're going to kick all this out until you don't do those things officially.
Right.
All right. So if you don't do those things officially, then these people can come back. But as it stands right now, they're going to have the contested case hearings, and we're going for, if they follow through with this thing, and we don't get a legislative fix, we're going to have probably 9 to 12 months worth of hearings and things take place, and while these folks challenge.
And that's what we've been talking about. This is not a quick fix.
No, it's not.
I mean, they acted like, oh, now we can move forward. The process, you're going to have depositions. You're going to have testimony. You're going to have to go out and visit the site. Stuff that should have been done 2 years ago is going to have to be done now. So we're talking not weeks, not months, but multiple months and possibly even a year or two.
They're estimating between 12 and 15 months to get all of this done. You understand we've got 29 companies involved here. Now, some of those will fall off because they can't afford the legal proceedings to do this. But like you said, we're talking about, and that's before we even award a license. Never mind the fact that we're, getting medical cannabis to people who need it. So, I think this is, while it's a win, it's not a good enough win.
It's not a fix. It's a win, but it's not a fix. So what's got to happen? We have seen a substitute bill that will come up probably next Wednesday. Excuse me. And this substitute bill seems to be the best fix we've seen, Susan.
Yeah, it's a fix that could actually have us having the licenses and beginning to start the process here of actually growing and getting medical marijuana to people that need it. And they think that could come if this legislation passes, which I believe is SB 73. It's a substitute to SB 72. 72. Yeah. We're talking about maybe in the middle of summer. What they're going to do is the legislation says that they want the chairman of the House and the Senate Agriculture Committee to get together and appoint what's called a
Administrative law judge.
Thank you, administrative law judge, to be able to oversee all this procedures. And then within 14 days, the 30 days of the day of the legislation, they'll appoint the person. And then within 14 calendar days following his or her appointment, the administrative law judge will send notices to the applicant so they can have their in-home visits, see if the facilities are ready. And then within 60 days after that, give or take a little bit, the judge can go ahead and determine the applicants that get the licenses. So we're talking about it's going to go pretty quick, and everything else before this legislation would be null and void. All the licenses that were issued would be null and void. All of that will be over with, and we could actually this is the path to being able to get this ship back on course for where it needs to be going.
Josh, this not only cuts through a lot of the manure that the AMCC has put up in this situation. I don't know why I've got a lot of farm animal references.
You do today.
Yeah, no, right.
But it cuts through all the crap. How about that? And kind of gets it where you've got one person that's been picked by the ag chairs who's going to have ultimate say here. And listen, you can go and challenge an administrative law judge all you want. Most courts in this state will go, we don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a decent fix for this sort of thing here. First of all, it gets the gerbils off the wheel completely, so to speak. But no, honestly, whatever we can do to kind of work ourselves around the AMCC at this point, around the commission that continues to screw this thing up and seems to have no desire whatsoever to fix it properly. Whatever we can do to get around that, I think is a good thing, because I think at this point in time, the people have presented their case. The applicants have presented their cases, and they've presented enough facts. We can go out, we can visit these sites, we can look at these things. And I think that if you appoint a proper person that comes in, an administrative law judge is more than likely going to be a former circuit court judge from somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody that's respected, somebody that's pretty well known. They're going to come in, they're going to do a decent job. They're going to review all this stuff. And I think that they'll be able to make a pretty good decision on who should and should not have license.
Yeah, because they're gonna go make a site visit to one of the people that's been awarded a license, and they're gonna be standing in the field with nothing around them.
Yeah, trees and grass.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got to be ready to produce this product within 60 days?
Yes, from the time you're awarded the license, and you can't do that if you don't have a building.
They have awarded these licenses in such a suspicious way that if I were a suspicious person, I would think there's absolute corruption behind this. But maybe it's just ignorance and there's got to be something wrong.
But listen, you got to understand, the substitute goes back and reiterates everything that was in the original bill, all the requirements that were there originally, where you've got to have a site that's ready to go. You've got to have your surety bonds. You've got to have your insurance. You've got to have your capital in place for 2 years. All of those things are reiterated in the substitute. So there's not any, anything new there, but it reiterates and says this has to happen in order for you to get a license.
If you are concerned about having medical cannabis available to those in need within the next 10 years, then call your senator, call your state representative, and tell them to get off the pot. We need a fix. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
I have got to hand it to U.S. Senator Coach Tommy Tuberville. This man has made a small fortune, maybe a large fortune trading stocks. And he has done very well while not a senator and doing very well as a senator. And I congratulate him on his success. Now, the other day he came out while the stock market was cratering and people's 401ks are going in the toilet bowl, and said that this was a correction because the stock market was bloated. Now, I'm not sure if he wants to give back all those gains he got while it was bloated. But Josh, we went from a bloated stock market where people were making buku money under Joe Biden to a correction where people are losing their fannies under the Trump administration. But it's just because it was bad under Joe Biden. It was bloated.
Overbloated.
Overbloated.
It's overbloated. It was overbloated, according to Coach.
I got you.
It was overbloated, and thankfully we've got Trump in there correcting that overbloation, or whatever the proper term of overbloated is.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's ludicrous. It's another one of the the emperor has fantastic clothes on references here, when we can all see exactly what's happening, and what's happening is the fact that he's come in and taken a pretty good economy. In a span of 2 months, just ripped it to absolute shreds through these ridiculous tariffs and all the other upheaval that's taking place around the government, and they're paying the price for it. All over the country, Republicans are, because they see, listen, a lot of people were unhappy with Sleepy Joe, but right now, Sleepy Joe looking pretty good. They'd like for things to be a little sleepier as they watch all these folks get fired, and they watch their 401ks and their retirement savings go down the drain. Over this guy acting like a petty child with our allies, of course. I mean, it's one thing to impose tariffs on folks like Russia or China or somebody like that, but then, be imposing tariffs on Canada and picking a fight with Canada, for God's sakes. I mean, what are we doing?
Alabama, one of the largest trading partners for Alabama is Canada, and another is Mexico. And the price of goods is going to skyrocket and go on consumers. There's just, poultry, our agriculture products, all of this are going to suffer as a result. I mean, one of the cuts that's just been made, to our universities, to our research facilities, all that's going to cost hundreds and thousands of jobs, potentially. Another cut is the USDA just cut funding that helped supply food for food banks and people in need. And it also paid Alabama farmers for the food. But the farmers aren't going to get paid, and the poor people aren't going to get fed. And pretty soon, you start to sour on the party in power. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Biden was some kind of, did any kind of magical job in his last year or so. But I'm saying you can't cut, and then say nobody's going to suffer. But Tuberville did come out and say, no pain, no gain. But I don't know what the hell kind of metaphors he's using for when people are in crisis and suffering.
The biggest thing that's bloated is A, his ego, and B, his thought of what kind of IQ he has. I mean, these are critical needs that people have. And they're just, cutting here and cutting there and cutting jobs and cutting money. And not thinking about how this is going to affect people. They don't care. And he's the top one bootlicker that doesn't care. Well,
the crazy thing, Josh, you got him chumming around with idiots like RFK Jr., who thinks that cod liver oil and vitamin A will solve the measles. I know that our doctors in Alabama, at least most of them, have more sense than to think you can cure a disease like measles with vitamin A and cod liver oil.
Yeah, you know what you could cure it with? The measles vaccine.
Yeah,
that's what you could cure it with. It's honestly, I think a lot of people now or even at a basic level, when we're talking about things like the EPA, okay, and the EPA director just recently, the new EPA director just recently said that the agency's goal is to help Americans buy automobiles and homes and make things more affordable, and it's not to protect the environment. The name of the administration that he's running is the Environmental Protection Agency. I mean, it's that sort of ignorance, and it's honestly, it's like this game that they're playing where they believe that it is a game where they're trying to own the libs. All right, where it's trying, they believe they're a bunch of online trolls, and they're out there trying to own the libs over this different stuff that they're doing. And it's, just to put it in perspective for people. As all of this stuff that you've just talked about is taking place, the president was on the White House lawn having a used car sale for the richest man in the world. Okay? That tells you everything you need to know about the priorities of this administration and where they are. And the priority is not you, the working person in this country.
And look, as you've said many times, it really people that listen, a lot of people have faith in Donald Trump. I hope that faith is rewarded. Right now, it certainly does not look like it. And I tell you what else is not being rewarded is our congressmen, our senators, because this past week, the Speaker of the House in Washington, D.C., Mike Johnson, told his colleagues to stop holding town hall meetings because they were getting so much flack from their constituents. Then, Gary Palmer says he's not holding them, and Dale Strong said he's not holding his.
Yeah, Robert Adderholt's not holding his. And Palmer
came out and said, "Oh, they're busting in outside agitators."
Oh, they're calling them professional protesters.
What are you living in the '60s, dude? We're not, but nobody's busting in outside
Nobody's
agitators.
Paying people to protest what they see is wrong and hold their representatives responsible, which they should do. That is their right.
Terry Sewell had a town hall. 20,000 people showed up to her virtual town hall. Hold the town hall.
A telephone town hall.
Yeah.
A telephone town hall had 20,000 people on it.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable, man. And these are not paid people. They're not paid people. No. They're people who are pissed off. That's what they are. They're pissed off people that are coming out to talk to these people about what they see every day and what's affecting their lives. And I tell you why Dale Strong's not holding one is because the last time somebody brought up all these cuts that are taking place in his district in Huntsville, which a ton of federal cuts are affecting that place. And he said, don't worry about it. Huntsville can absorb these losses, which must have been really fantastic to hear for the thousands of his constituents who have lost their jobs or who are uncertain about their future than their families.
Well, the thing is, government is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. But right now, we have our Republicans in Congress running from their constituents because the constituents don't like what they see. We hope you've enjoyed the show today. I want to thank you for watching. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.